The movie kicks off with Laura Blacklock, an investigative journalist still shaken after witnessing one of her sources being murdered during a recent assignment. She receives a personal email invitation to join the luxury super yacht Aurora Borealis for a high-profile cruise, hosted by businessman Richard Bulmer. He is raising money for a new foundation dedicated to his wealthy terminally ill wife Anna Lyngstad, a Norwegian shipping heiress battling end-stage leukemia. He plans to escort the foundation's board members on the yacht to a fundraising gala in Norway and wants a reporter on board to help promote the cause. Hoping for a break, Laura agrees to cover what she assumes will be a light assignment. Once aboard the Aurora Borealis, she meets the various wealthy board members. The chief steward Carla informs her that she'll be staying in cabin 8. While enjoying a glass of champagne and the ocean view, Laura unexpectedly runs into her ex-boyfriend Ben, a photographer also hired to cover the cruise. At sunset, the yacht sets off on its journey. Laura stands on the balcony of her cabin when she notices several cigarette butts rolling across the floor, clearly coming from the balcony next door. She gathers them up and throws them into the trash bin in her bathroom. Later, during the welcome drinks, Bulmer greets the board members and gives a short speech about his and Anne's charity project. He raises a toast, explaining that his wife is resting after a long day of travel, but they'll all celebrate together tomorrow. He suggests a light dinner and an early night, promising a big day ahead. As a surprise for the guests, Danny Tyler, a somewhat washed-up rock star friend of Bulmer's, arrives by boat to join the event. Later that evening, Laura steps out of her cabin in a sparkling dress on her way to dinner. In the hallway, she almost runs into Ben and another woman. Wanting to avoid them, she quickly ducks into cabin 10, where she finds a young blonde woman she doesn't recognize. Laura apologizes and leaves the room, heading to dinner. After dinner, Laura is escorted by Bulmer's head of security, Sigrid, to meet and in her private suite. She compliments Laura's work and tells her she was the one who personally invited her on board. She's in poor health, coughing often, and admits she has stopped taking her medications and treatments. She's simply too tired to continue and plans to go soon. When they sit together, Anne asks Laura for her opinion on her upcoming gala speech, explaining that her mind isn't as sharp as it used to be. Laura learns that the woman plans to donate all of her money to charity and leave her foundation to someone other than her husband. Anne locks her speech in a safety box and asks Laura to come back the next day to continue their interview. Late that night, Laura is startled awake by screams and the sound of a struggle coming from the cabin next door, cabin 10. She rushes to her balcony, opens the door, and hears a loud splash. Looking down, she sees a body floating in the dark water and realizes someone has just been pushed overboard. Then she notices a bloody handprint smeared on the glass wall, separating her balcony from the one next door. She alerts the crew and security immediately. Soon everyone is out of bed, gathered for a head count. In cabin 10, Laura recounts everything she saw in front of security, the crew, and Bulmer. She insists she heard a struggle and saw a woman, the same blonde woman who had been in the cabin earlier. But to her shock, she's told that cabin 10 has been empty the entire trip. The guests who were supposed to stay there canceled 2 days ago, and no one ever checked in. Laura insists there was blood on the glass, and they go to check, but when they arrive, the balcony is spotless. The blood is gone. She tells them she can prove someone was there and runs to her cabin to find the cigarette butts she collected earlier. She explains that they were rolling in from the balcony of cabin 10, but when she checks the trash bin, they're gone. Carla explains that the cabins are serviced twice a day. The cleaners must have already emptied it. Just then, security radios in to confirm that all crew members and guests are accounted for. The search ends, and everyone begins to doubt her story. Bulmer sends everyone back to bed and orders the door to cabin 10 to be locked until they reach port in Norway. The next morning, Laura buzzes the crew to report she can't get any internet connection. A crew member explains that the system is down and the technicians are working on it. Later, she steps out to the yacht's bar and runs into Bulmer. She immediately brings up the woman from cabin 10, but Bulmer calmly tells her that there's nothing to be embarrassed about. She was convinced she saw something real, but clearly, it wasn't. He urges her to let it go, but Laura refuses. She insists the woman she saw was real and asks to see the crew, thinking maybe it was one of them. Bulmer agrees and takes her to the deck, where the entire crew is assembled. He tells her to look carefully and see if she recognizes anyone. Laura scans their faces one by one, but doesn't recognize a single woman. Afterward, Laura visits Ben's cabin to continue their conversation, but Mrs. Bulmer seems to have completely forgotten that she asked Laura to meet with her and blames the mix-up on her medication. Then, and says she needs to rest for the night and dismisses Laura. Frustrated, Laura goes to Ben's cabin, venting about how everyone thinks she's losing her mind. Ben tells her people will get over it soon, but Laura insists she knows what she saw. She tells him she locked eyes with the blonde woman after she came out of the shower in cabin 10. They even exchanged a few words. Ben asks what she was doing in cabin 10 in the first place, and Laura admits she was avoiding him. Then, she remembers Ben has been taking photos of the cruise from day one. Laura grabs his laptop and starts flipping through the pictures, hoping to find the blonde woman in one of them. As she scrolls, Laura gets distracted and finds older photos, ones taken months ago at a party. In one of them, she spots the blonde woman. Excited, she points her out to Ben, but he insists it's just a random guest from an old event, a stranger he doesn't know. Certain she's uncovered the mystery woman's identity, Laura rushes upstairs with Ben's laptop and announces to everyone that she's found her. She shows the photo to Bulmer and another guest, Adam, the man who hosted the party in the photo, and is even pictured in it with the woman. Adam frowns and says he's never seen her before. There are dozens of women who look like that. Then Dr. Robert, Ben's personal physician, steps in. He tells Laura that what she went through must have been deeply traumatic, and implies she might be seeing things. He mentions that just a few months ago, she witnessed a murder. Laura freezes and asks how he knows that. The doctor says Ben told him. Ben awkwardly defends himself, saying he was only worried about her. The doctor continues, explaining that it's not uncommon for vivid images to resurface in the fragile moments between sleep and waking, subtly suggesting she's hallucinating. Soon the other guests chime in, offering her reassurances. They tell her not to be embarrassed, that it'll pass, that stress can play tricks on anyone's mind. But Laura can feel something dark is happening beneath the surface. Bulmer books her a spa appointment to relax. Laura reluctantly agrees. She tries to unwind during the treatment, but flashes of her past keep coming back. In the shower, she notices a shadow moving behind the steam glass. And then, a message appears in the condensation. Stop. She rushes out demanding to know who wrote it. But the massage therapist and Adam, who's in the sauna, both insist they have no idea what she's talking about. Then Laura notices a camera tucked in the corner of the room. She storms to the crew and demands to see the CCTV footage from the spa. Anyone who came or went in the last 20 minutes. But the crew tells her that all cameras are turned off whenever guests are on board. It's standard policy, especially with so many high-profile people on the yacht. Later, while taking a shower, Laura glances down at the drain, and suddenly it hits her. There might still be evidence left behind in cabin 10. She quickly throws on her clothes, grabs a Ziploc bag, and heads out. But there's one problem. Cabin 10 is locked. Determined, and maybe a little desperate, she decides to take the risky way in from the outside balcony. Laura climbs along the narrow ledge, clutching the rail as the wind whips around her. But somehow she manages to reach cabin 10's balcony and slips inside. She goes straight to the bathroom. First, she lifts the shower drain cover, but finds nothing. Then she unscrews the sink's drain and finds clumps of blonde hair caught inside. She seals the hair in a Ziploc bag and later shows it to Ben, saying it belongs to the woman who went overboard. Ben warns her not to push it any further. He tells her that the people on this yacht are powerful, the kind who run the world, and she needs to be careful. He promises that once they dock, he'll go to the police with her if she still wants to pursue it. Satisfied for now, Laura hides the bag with the hair inside the drain of her own bathroom sink. The next morning, the guests head out on a smaller boat to see the whales, leaving Laura and the doctor behind on the yacht. Laura decides it's now or never to question the crew. She shows them the photo of the blonde woman, asking if they've seen her on board. They shake their heads. When Laura asks how easy it would be to smuggle someone onto the yacht without anyone noticing, they laugh nervously and say their bosses wouldn't like them talking to her. As she leaves the crew area, she runs into the doctor. He notices where she came from and says that she should enjoy the peace and quiet while it lasts. His tone is vaguely threatening. Back in her cabin, Laura sees that it's been cleaned. She rushes to the bathroom and retrieves the bag of hair from the drain, stuffing it into her coat pocket. Then she spots a button lying on the carpet. It doesn't belong to any of her clothes, but she pockets it anyway. When the guests return, Laura heads up to the deck and sees Ben taking photos of one of the guests. Just as they walk away, someone suddenly shoves Laura from behind, straight into the yacht's pool. Before she can react, the pool's cover slides shut over her. Laura slams on the glass until the guests inside see her. They manage to pull her out just in time. Laura is taken back to her room, where Ben, the doctor, and the captain try to piece together what happened. She insists someone is trying to kill her, but they don't believe her. The captain says no one saw anyone else nearby. Bulmer tells her she must have fallen. Laura argues that the pool cover can't close by itself. Then she notices the doctor's shirt is missing a button. She accuses him of being in her room. When she looks around, she realizes her things are missing. Her coat, the Ziploc bag with the hair, even the button she picked up. A crew member tells her her belongings were taken to the laundry room. Laura rushes there, but when she checks her coat, the pockets are empty. As Laura is returning to her room, Ben shows up. She immediately accuses him of pushing her into the pool, since he was the only one who knew about the hair. Ben admits that he told the other guests she had evidence, but says he only did it to defend her because everyone was calling her crazy. Meanwhile, the musician Danny decides he's had enough. He announces that he's leaving the yacht, saying he doesn't want any more bad publicity and that everything about this trip feels wrong. The remaining guests turn on Laura, blaming her for Danny's departure and whispering that she's lost her mind. Laura retreats back to her cabin. A while later, there's a knock at her door. Through the peephole, she sees someone in a hoodie standing outside. She follows the hooded figure down the crew staircase and into the lower levels of the yacht, all the way to the cockpit. There the figure turns around, and it's the same blonde woman she saw in cabin 10. The woman tells her that she's alive and begs her to stop digging. Laura accuses her of being the one who pushed her into the pool, but the woman swears it wasn't her, warning that he will kill them both if Laura keeps investigating. The woman pleads with Laura to drop it now that she knows she's alive. In the tense struggle that follows, Laura yanks at the woman's hood, pulling it down and revealing that the blonde hair is actually a wig. Underneath, her head is completely shaved. The resemblance is unmistakable. She looks exactly like Mrs. Bulmer. Laura says her name in shock, and the woman snaps. She slams Laura's head into a metal pipe, knocking her unconscious. When Laura wakes up, she's bloodied and locked inside a makeshift prison deep in the ship's lower decks. As time passes and the pieces click into place, Laura realizes the horrifying truth. Richard Bulmer murdered his wife, the real Anne Bulmer, because she planned to disinherit him. The body Laura saw floating in the water wasn't a stranger, it was Anna. And the woman now pretending to be her is an imposter. She eventually reappears and confirms Laura's suspicions. Her name is Carrie. Bulmer found her using facial recognition software. He tracked her down through social media because she resembled his wife. He paid her to impersonate her long enough to sign over control of the Foundation to him. Carrie swears she never thought Bulmer would actually kill his wife. She only agreed because she needed money to take care of her daughter. A flashback reveals how it all went wrong. Anne discovered Carrie hiding in cabin 10 and confronted Bulmer. When she realized what he was planning, things spiraled out of control. In the heat of the argument, Bulmer shoved his wife against a dresser, cracking her skull, and then threw her overboard. Carrie just stood there watching in horror. Laura begs Carrie to go to the police, warning her that Bulmer will kill her once she signs the will. She pleads for them to work together and escape, but Carrie refuses. She leaves Laura locked in the cell and returns to her role as Mrs. Bulmer. That night, there's a show on deck. The guests gather as Bulmer gives a speech, thanking everyone for being there. As fireworks explode over the ocean, Carrie stands beside him, playing her part while Laura remains trapped below. Ben starts to worry about Laura and goes to her cabin, but the doctor is just leaving. He tells Ben that Laura is resting and he shouldn't disturb her, then walks away. Meanwhile, Bulmer and the doctor realize Laura is missing, but she couldn't have disappeared at sea. Bulmer orders him to find her and get rid of her. The doctor hesitates, saying it's one thing to overdose someone already dying, but Laura is different. Bulmer reminds him of a dark secret from his past, something Bulmer once covered up, leaving the doctor with no choice but to obey. Carrie overhears everything and realizes she's next. Later that night, while Bulmer sleeps, she sneaks down to where Laura is being held. She admits she can't go to the police. She's an accomplice now and plans to sign the papers finish the job, and be done with it. Still, she leaves the hatch unlocked so Laura can escape once they dock in 2 hours. Laura promises she'll come back for Carrie and protect her. The next morning, while the guests are off on a day trip, Ben tries to check on Laura again. A crew member tells him she's sedated and forbids him from entering. Meanwhile, Laura sneaks out and makes her way toward the main deck. The doctor stays behind under orders to kill her. Ben, at the last minute, decides to stay as well. Laura goes to Anne's room and finds a speech she had proofread earlier, the one and planned to read at the gala. She hides it inside her phone case and looks for a way to call for help. But the doctor finds her, syringe in hand. She runs, only to be blocked by the captain. They corner her in the corridor from both sides. The doctor lunges with the syringe, but Ben appears and pulls him away, and the needle accidentally plunges into Ben's neck. Laura fights off the captain, and the doctor begins choking her. Ben attacks the doctor, but dies from the dose. Laura escapes and jumps overboard into the cold water. She swims to shore and hides in a small cottage nearby. Then the doctor tells Bulmer about Ben's death just before Carrie is about to sign the will. Bulmer instructs the doctor to deal with Carrie afterward. The Foundation's board members are shocked when fake Mrs. Bulmer announces she's changing her will. Carrie says her husband has stood by her side through all her hardships, and she's decided on a more reasonable arrangement. She signs the documents, handing everything over to him. At the same time, Laura sneaks into the building where the gala is being held. She spots Sigrid, the head of security, and rushes to her, telling her that Bulmer killed his wife and replaced her with an impersonator. She shows Sigrid Mrs. Bulmer's real speech as proof. The woman doesn't believe her, but Laura insists she can prove it. At the gala, Bulmer takes the stage, giving a heartfelt speech about charity, legacy, and the Foundation's bright future. Beside him stands Carrie, still posing as his wife. Then Bulmer spots Laura entering the room. Laura storms up to the podium, grabs the mic, and cuts him off. She tells everyone that Mrs. Bulmer had asked her to share her real story and holds up the original speech. Bulmer immediately tries to silence her, calling her delusional, but Carrie, still in character, tells him to let Laura speak. The guests murmur in confusion, siding with who they believe is his wife. Backed into a corner, Bulmer reluctantly steps aside. Laura reads Anne's true words aloud, revealing that Anne had planned to donate her entire fortune and disinherit her husband. The room goes silent. Carrie confirms that yes, those were Anne's wishes, and that she wrote the speech herself. Bulmer snaps. In front of everyone, he attacks Carrie, shouting that she's not his real wife. He grabs a knife, holds it to her throat, and drags her out of the room. He forces her down the dock toward the boat, desperate to escape. Laura and Sigrid chase after them. Sigrid fires a shotgun, hitting Bulmer in the shoulder. But Bulmer starts to choke Carrie. For a second, it seems like Laura will have to watch another person die in front of her. But this time she knocks Bulmer out and saves Carrie's life. In the final scene, Laura is back at her newsroom. Her article is out and a massive success. Then her phone buzzes. It's a video message from Carrie, showing her safe with her daughter. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time.